That's the last thing I need.
And it is, yes, I know. All right, yes, sure thing.
I was listening to the thing on my device.
Oh, are you? Did you hear me say it? I was like, somebody just texted in.
I'll tell you what, the quality of audio on that live stream is really good.
It's good, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay, so, Caitlin, do you really want to use my base? No, I'll switch them out. I think I'm just gonna leave mine up. It just, you have to just click it 4 or 5 times to get it. Do you want me to? You sure? Well, now it's actually not going at all.
I'll just lean. We'll be okay.
You give me what you're passing out, or you skip me?
yeah, I'll give you one. I figured you already had it. We were looking at it,
Oh, yeah, I got it.
Nick, you record this one, right?
Did we happen to call Luke or anything this week to set anything up? Luke? Oh, good.
So, executive session tonight, we're gonna finalize it.
Okay, 5:33. Are we ready to go? Call the meeting to order. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? No. Can I have a motion to approve minutes of March 11?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Can't hear you.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Village finances.
All right. How's everybody doing? Good?
Good.
Good.
Okay.
Good to see you, Nick.
Yep, you too. So I'm assuming you guys got the packet that I mailed out,
Yes,
your
that's
emailed
correct.
out. Go over that. Really, first page here, I mean, as you can see, things are going pretty well. Income tax is up, water's up, sewer's up. You know, the overall main 3 categories, income tax, water, sewer, were up like 4% compared to last year. And that was with last year at this point being up 14%. So we've held that. And then we had a fairly large income tax, I guess you could say customer, who there's about 100-something thousand more that would have normally been in this that's going to be in April. So things are going very well. The only thing I want to say about this is just remember, when we looked at April and May last year, it was terrible. I don't know if you remember, we were down like one point, it was like 46%. So it's going to look, when we start getting these next couple months because of COVID, it's going to look a little bit, extreme, the increase. But these are great numbers. I mean, when you're comparing last year at this point, things were still technically somewhat open through March to a degree. So very good. Page 2, These are your just macro level total receipts in, total expenses out. We brought in 1.775 million so far. Total money out's 1.38 million. So we're to the good 394 grand, which again is fantastic. I mean, the spending, and I verify these things with Jess because it's legit. I mean, it's down. I mean, so not only are our revenues up, but the amount of money that we've spent so far is down. So you can see our receipts are up not a lot, but 35,000 overall, but the spending's down 142 grand. So again, very positive. So page 3.
That's what makes it great. And everything else is kind of flat, it's up a
Right.
little, up a little, but the spending
Yeah,
turns that thing into
it's amazing.
makes it pretty.
So then on page 3 here, this is the income tax detail. So you can see here that we've already put away 171,000 into the infrastructure fund. We've already brought in 856,000 in income tax revenue. The business deposits compared to last year, we brought in 73,000 compared to last year. Was 32,000. Individual, we brought in 107,000 compared to last year at this point where it was 89,000. And withholdings are down a little bit, but like I said, I got an answer for that because one of the major employers here has a couple months that would have totaled to well over 100,000. That would be in this. We'd be up in that category as well.
Like 135.
Yeah, so I mean, you'd be at about 800,000 already in that category. So I read a thing today DeWine just put out this afternoon. The Ohio GDP beat the national GDP in the fourth quarter. Unemployment here is only 5% in Ohio, where the rest of the country it's like 6.5%. Ohio's done pretty well, and especially Northeast. I mean, at least our neck of the woods around here, I mean, really things have gone pretty well. So the thing why I bring this up is I'm a little surprised by this, I'll be honest with you, especially on the business deposits and the individual. This kind of shows you that people around here, at least in Middlefield Village, were not individually affected by this that much. Because typically, if you had a lot of people on unemployment, unemployment is not subject to local income tax. So you would be expecting, if there was truly this surge of people on unemployment, you wouldn't be having the type of individual withholdings you're having, or I'm sorry, individual income tax. So that's pretty impressive. I mean, it's, again, I wish I could give bad news. So far, and I try, Ben knows. I do try to ruin it for him.
Wait to race to the bottom. That's his motto.
Right.
Race to the
That's
bottom.
what I do try very hard. But all right. So now,
So we're going to pass legislation tonight to put income tax on the stimulus checks.
Yes. Correct.
The
What?
stimulus checks that went out, we're going to put income tax. $1,400
Oh, we're gonna
per
tax
person.
them?
We're going to tax it.
Okay,
No federal tax, nothing else. We're going to
Just
tax.
village.
Just village.
this village,
Okay. So,
33%, right?
right.
Obviously, by this, nobody needed that because they all made
Right.
their wages.
All right, so page 4, payroll. So again, payroll is down, but I put an asterisk by that because at this point, there's going to be a month where we're going to catch up and have 3 payrolls in a month comparatively, and you'll be up.
It was 777,
June.
77 and 6.
Yeah. So I mean, if you add in a payroll, we'd be at about 385 at this point, 386, but we're at 335 because, again, comparatively, the 2 years, there were 3 payrolls in January. So, but again, that's, we know that. And then page 5 is just our statement of cash, revenue and expense, all the fund balances. As you can see, again, I mean, started the year with 8.1 million. After expenses, we got 8.5 million in the bank. All the fund balances are in a positive, which is what we want to see. It's going very well. The only thing, like I said, the only gray area I mentioned is just make sure when we look at April and May, don't get, because those months were they were bad. And we were worried at that point how it was going to turn out. But when Ben and I were talking today, really by July, August, we'll have a comparative because that's when income tax was due again, was July 15th last year. And this year it's May 15th. So technically you got some people so May will probably be a much better month compared to the year before. So, but again, everything's going great in Middlefield Village. We've been lucky. And we're lucky because the employers here, the stuff that touches their business are things that have to do with housing to a point, and things that touch those things. So it's been pretty good.
They're in the right businesses.
Yeah, so. That's all I got, and unless there's any questions.
Questions for Nick? Nope. Okay, number 2, old business, wage scale and increase based on income tax collections. That was still on hold on that. There's nothing new there. Is there?
We're gonna talk about it. I think we need their input.
Okay.
Nick Scott, I think he gave you some
Yeah,
spread.
I'm gonna dish, you may.
Oh, you didn't pass them out? I thought they had them already.
Because I wasn't sure how or when we were gonna do it, so.
I was gonna ask you to leave,
Me?
both of you, but we decided not to.
I can handle it.
You're tough.
I can handle it.
All right, so I'm going to give a little thing on this. So Sam, Caitlin, Ben, me, right?
Yep.
That's it. Yeah, we met a couple times to kind of come up with, so when we have these meetings in December and January, not that we're throwing, spaghetti at a wall, but we're going, we look at the numbers, of course, but we don't really have a defined way that we come up with these wage increases. Like City of Chardon, for example, they literally have a scale, and it's that simple. You have income tax, and here's what the chart is, and if we have a raise in between this, if income tax ends up going up this much, this is the raise that you get. They keep it very non-emotional. The 4 of us, I think, really came up with something pretty good here that I think is not only very fair to the village, but I think it's fair to the employees. I think it gives them a way to feel like they're buying in. Not that they don't. We got good employees here, but they feel like they're part of it. So I'm gonna read this real quick. So there's.
Let me
go ahead,
just
Ben.
add to it just there. I know personally, it's the personality of whoever sits here that gives the, if it's a person that's employee-friendly, thinks they're worth it, it shouldn't be based on attitude of whoever's sitting in this chair, in my opinion. And that's usually how it has gone in the past, is like, we had a pretty good year, let's give 3%. We'd fight over, 4%. It really should be based on the fact, here's the financial situation of the village, here's the structure that's there, so it should carry on after me and be fair to the employees, no matter who's there, and it shouldn't be a thing on emotion. It's going to be how well the village performs, and everyone has a part in making it perform well. So, go ahead.
Well, because the biggest concern Ben has, and it's right, is remember when Ben came in, we had less than $3 million left in this place. I mean, and decisions were not being made on a financial level that they should have been. And I think it's smart, just like the income tax infrastructure fund that you guys passed. It makes it where people in the future can't just take money and build things and just do whatever. There's constraints. And it's for the best interest of the village. And this plan is kind of like that. So the 4 of us collectively came up with, we wanted to make this more than what Chardon does. Because we felt collectively that that's can be fair and unfair to the employees / village. So we wanted to come up with something more comprehensive. So part 1, baseline CPI. So as we discussed, ways in which to organize and calculate a compensation raise formula, we realized we must have some established baseline. This will become more clear after we review Part 2 and Part 3. We needed to make sure that we keep wages competitive with the market. Only paying compensation based on a structure of Part 2 and Part 3 would eventually lead to wages falling over time. This establishment of a baseline on a metric of CPI makes sure that wages will continue to stay competitive. Okay, so that's that. The second part to this plan is income tax. As we're all aware, income tax is a true lifeblood of the village. We feel that if the village has a positive income tax revenues, it is in our best interest to share that wealth with the employees who make it possible. We wanted to find an equitable manner to accomplish this by building in a scale of what that increase should mean in terms of raises. we have a chart that we would use to calculate what additional amount each employee would receive based on certain ranges of growth. And then part 3, the third part of this compensation raise formula must have a component of overall financial health of the village. There may be years where income tax revenues are extremely high, but projects that are required ironically make for a year in which we are spending into the fund balances negatively. On the other hand, there may be years just like last year where income taxes are flat, but the spending is controlled by the managers, by circumstance, by the employees, making sure to not overspend, and the year ends up adding to our fund balances positively. And again, we have a chart that we came up with collectively to do that. So the next page is those charts. Now, these charts are not set in stone. These are just ideas that me, Caitlin, Sam, Ben came up with, looking at Chardon, how they did their income tax part, and then we came up with ways to add to this to make it a little bit more comprehensive. So it's very basic. And I have chart 1, chart 2, because when Ben and I met, we wanted to do a couple scenarios to kind of show what the raises would have been based on different metrics to try to tie into what people did get over the last 3 years. So if there's a decrease in income tax, obviously there's not a raise. You know, that's pretty common sense. If we have an increase of 0 to 3.99%, and again, this can change, but we were going to do 1%. 4 to 6, 1.5, you can kind of see the chart. Then we have a village profit and loss, and this is based on that part 3 I was talking about with the fiscal health of the village. So, you know, and we wanted to put a quantifiable number on it. So like if we have a quote-unquote profit of over $1 million, we're going to give at a minimum a 2% raise, just in this classification, so that the employees earn 2%, boom. You know, 800,000 to $1 million, they get 1.25, boom. The last part, and we thought we were geniuses at first when we were discussing this, because we were going to do it more based on Chardon and have it be an annual thing. And then we realized quickly that if we didn't have some type of CPI component that was a fixed part, it's like this. 10 years into this, it's like, great, I got a bonus based on my wages that were based on 1986. You know, and that would obviously defeat the purpose of this. So we wanted to do something that has a fixed CPI component to it. So if there is a bad year of 1% raise given based on these metrics, but CPI, and again, this factor number I came up with, you guys can change that. This is just thoughts, okay? But we kind of figured, I looked back at what the CPI was over the last 3 years. So for example, 2018, it was 2.4%. If we wanted to give a 0.5%, like 50% credit towards that, that would get them at least a 1.2% raise that year. So these are our ideas. So I wanted to show you the math now on what this would have meant in these scenarios. So I tried to match up chart 1 with the next page, which is example 1, okay? All right, so the top little box here, these are actual numbers. So 2018, 2019, 2020, those were the wages, those were the raises we gave. And this is just wages. I didn't factor in PERS, OP&F, and Medicare, I just strictly wages, because it's all numbers. So that's the wage increase on the wages. 32,000, then 64,000, then 43, okay? Then the next column, the more in-depth one, is based on this metric that the 4 of us came up with. So I obviously used the same wages, and then I look back at the CPI. For 2018, it was 2.4%. They would get a 1.2% raise. That's what that CPI would come to, 15 grand. The way the income tax fell, and that's a 5-year rolling average, because we want to be fair too, because if somebody left, we don't want to destroy the employees, or if somebody huge comes in, we don't want to destroy the village. So that's a 5-year rolling average. In all of those 3 years, they fell in that, they would get a 1.5% raise based upon that category. And there's those totals. And then, of course, we've had some really good years we've strung together here because of everybody buying in. That's that profit and loss part. That's the amounts that they would have gotten percentage-wise for those. So you can see how it all kind of extrapolates. You get pieces and parts for all of them. Now, the way this works is the portion of income you would get from the bonuses, or the bonus part from income tax and from the profit and loss, that is an annual payment paid at the end of the year, one time. So the beauty is, for the employees, Christmas time comes, it's fun times, because some people may be getting, $6,000 bonus check, or whatever the math may be. What Ben wanted to do, he wants to make it where everybody, council too, they want to make it where we're not creating, and again, I love Charlie. He is a good guy, and this is nothing against Charlie at all. Charlie did a good job, but the issue with Charlie was he was here so long, and those fixed wages, it got to the point where he was getting Cleveland Clinic doctor wages. And I'm not knocking him. It's not nothing he did wrong. What we're trying to do is make it where what we're building here is sustainable for years and years to come, where people don't feel like they're topped out, or it gets to this situation where you have to move people out of a position. So the point is, when you look at the scenario, that 3-year average fixed cost there, that little box, the third box, right now, you guys have already, over the last 3 years, based upon raises, we have added $140,666 in wage increases. That's fixed, that's there. If we don't do any more raises this year, it's still $140,000, because obviously it's like a compounding interest thing. You're building, and then you're adding, and then you're adding. It's permanent. This is a permanent expense. So if we go into a downturn, which will happen at some point, we don't want to do what other councils and mayors have done, where they saddle the village with issues. So in our fixed hypothetical situation, the only fixed portion of this scenario for the village would be $37,378. That's because of the CPI. Now, if we go to the 3-year total cost, obviously we add up all of these years and what those costs of raises are. If you factor in the bonuses that the employees would have gotten, and this was our first this was our first example we were just using. That's the cost to the village. It would have been $205,000. Now, Ben and I spoke about it, and we were using, like I said, kind of a Chardon look and trying to come up with math. Ben is a conservative man when it comes to business. If we're making money, he wants the employees to make money. So the second chart, we bumped those assumptions up. We kept the income tax part the same. We changed the profit and loss part up.
We verified this can be PRSable. I mean,
Yes,
it's not a cash thing where you don't get any benefit from it.
right. It's pensionable.
It goes into your retirement just like any other wage. Oh,
Okay.
Yeah, I verified with both.
That's going to be my question.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's more of like a personal question, but yeah.
well,
does
it makes a big difference
Does
to
it
you.
go into your 3-year average for your?
it does. And I verified with them, as long as it is actually based upon a percentage and not a flat fixed dollar amount, it's pensionable. So that's the
I was
beauty
just thinking
of this.
because it is a good idea, but like when you're recruiting and things like that too,
Right.
that's a good thing to
Yeah.
keep in mind.
The way we have this structured, it's pensionable.
Good employees will love this program because when there's money there, they're going to share in the success. When I came in here, and it wasn't because of me, but had we continued on that trend, maybe a pool got reelected, it wouldn't have continued on that trend. But if it had, it would have been cutting heads
Yep.
because you had an overhead you couldn't afford.
Yeah.
This gives it so the employee gets all the money every year. They actually make more money in a good year. And next year, if you got a crap year, you're not wearing the burden of that and starting to cut people and get rid of people, and the business can afford you still because
Yep.
we have it based on the fact that the business can afford it. So
So the second scenario was after Ben and I talked, and we're like, hey, let's bump up these profit and loss ratios. So, if you're over, and I think Ben hasn't seen this yet, but I think I wanted to try to get one as close as to what we've really done, just to give an example and still show you what that would mean. So anything over $1 million net, profit-wise to the village would get 4%. Anything over $800,000 to $1 million, 3%. So you could have a scenario here where, and I'll paint the picture if you go to the next page. I made it where you can see the 3-year average fixed cost, that doesn't change. Because in scenario actual, we've got 270,188.30, right? That is actual expense to the village in this scenario for those 3 years compounded together, okay?
Save $86.
Say that again?
Save $86.
Well, but here's the deal.
Bottom column.
The bottom column. But look, the hypothetical, we would get them about the same. So I don't want we didn't want the point of this was to make it a win-win, where the employees get money when we got money, and the village doesn't get wrecked when things get bad or if they do. So here's what we did. If you look, the fixed cost doesn't change here. It's still only $37,000 is what we've created here as a fixed cost, like that rolling
So you're going to wear it
CPI.
year after year.
You're going to wear it no
what.
matter what. Even if we have a bad year, you're going to have it. But guess what? You're not going to have 140 grand. But here's the other thing for the employees. In these great years we've had, they would have gotten the same amount of bonus money within $86 in this scenario because they would have gotten it in the form of bonuses. So at the end of the year, look at this. The annual bonus would have been, last year, we would have paid out about $79,915 to the employees, is what the bonuses would have been. That's what the bonuses would have been, based upon,
So in the hypothetical, they would have gotten 1.5% or
0.7 for CPI,
0.7 for CPI.
which is fixed,
They got 1.5,
for income tax,
they got 4%,
based on the profit.
6.2% raise.
Yeah. You would have gotten a 6.2% bonus of whatever your compensation was. So if you made,
Oh, you got a raise of 6 point. You got compensated at 6.2%.
well, right, with the CPI, right, correct. Yeah, and then the bonus part, you
And
would
it's
have gotten
pensionable.
5.5. So like, if you make 100 grand, you're going to get a $5,500 bonus check at the end of the year. It's just easy math. You know, if you make 50 grand, you're going to get a bonus check of the year for 2,800 bucks, something like that. Plus, so they're made whole. Like, you can see the math that nobody loses 86. I got it within 86 bucks. You know, as close as I can make it. But the point is, then if we have a bad year, somebody leaves, a meteor instead of COVID hits, now we're at least eating still the $37,000 fixed cost versus the 140, which will then grow and grow and grow. And we felt it was fair because we're still doing some type of increase on the base. Because when we thought about it first, we thought we had this thing figured out. We're like, oh, this is perfect. We'll do it based on this. But then when you think about it, you got to keep that base wage going up at least with CPI, because if not, the problem you're going to have is you're going to be in a place like the police were, where you're paying McDonald's wages trying to get people to come in, and it's not going to work. These numbers can change. Like I said, this is my ideas of numbers. So this is for you guys, but we just wanted to see if you like the idea and what the employees think about the idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the CPI changes
CPI
that.
changes it. That's a
Yeah.
permanent change, but you only wear this little over half the CPI every year.
And of course, you'll still have your STEP program. Like, this is just, but yeah, the CPI will change. So, like, for example, like Ben said, last year, the CPI wage increase would have been 0.7%. But then with the income tax bonuses and everything else, it would have been more.
6.2.
Yeah, it would have been more raises last year than what actually ended up
You'd
happening.
have got double last
Right,
year.
you would have gotten, yeah,
We gave 3%, you got double.
right, right, exactly. You would have gotten double.
But it doesn't put the village at risk. I mean, we give you a 6% raise this year, and then we're wearing that 6%
Right.
for the
Forever.
next 5 years, and we don't have any income coming in.
Right. And
It's not fair to you and to your peers and anybody else. That's the only thing you're really getting a raise. You're getting a bonus check for the other, which is pensionable, so it's not
Which
going
is
to hurt you
pensionable.
financially.
Right, which is pensionable. And the reason we thought it was a good idea is because, like Ben said, the raises last year would have been double. Or the overall pay would have been a doubling. It would have been 6 point whatever it was,
6.2.
6.2 versus 3. The year before, it would have been 6.4 versus 5. And the year before that, it would have been 4.2 versus 2.5.
That's unheard of nowadays, almost.
Well, I think it's creative.
Well, you're gonna put more money in your pocket if we can make, and it, when employees, and I know the system works, I worked in it for years. If employees realize that when they save a nickel and they create that carryover increase, they're getting a piece of that.
Right.
And it makes a heck of a difference when you start thinking about it like it's your own money, because it is your money.
It is.
And I think it's just a hell of an incentive, and I think it's a great way to prevent what could have happened here if the trend had continued. And I'm not saying it would have, but if it had continued, it would have been, you know, I was, and personally, and this isn't a, what's the first thing you'd think of, Joe? Have the sheriff do the police. I mean, it's $1 million. I mean, we get down. I'm saying you're getting down and out. What are you going to do? That'd be the first thing we'd probably do. So
Right.
now you're going to get rid of 10 good officers and the personal touch you give to a village.
Right.
And this gives you the ability, in my mind, to protect us financially, to make sure your carryover isn't chewed away. You know, General Motors got in trouble years ago with healthcare costs and retirements. They were so burdened from past sins,
Right.
you can't afford to operate. I mean, that's why a car that's a piece of junk costs you 50 grand from them, because they're so burdened with overhead. So I think this is a way to reward the employees properly, plus show your appreciation,
Right.
and safeguard the taxpayer from, you know, having a village that's not well-run and well-serviced, and, you know, so I think it's a good plan.
When we met to do this, I think we met twice, 2 or 3 times to discuss this.
Yeah.
And I'm going to thank you, Nick, because I think you did a really great job on these. And actually, I think your numbers make a lot of sense. I don't know where they came from, where you pulled them out of, but
Rabbit hash.
Rabbit Hat.
Yes.
Yeah.
Layered them over,
But
layered them over,
Yeah,
layered them over history.
yeah, well, that's what we wanted them to do. And that comparison, I think, it convinces me at least that we were on the right track.
Yeah, and I mean, the employees can see it would be the same result. The difference is it's a protected result. And to me, like Ben said, I think it's really neat for the employees to feel, I don't know, I don't want to put a connotation of government, but this is like, you have a vested interest in it now. Not that they don't feel that way already, I'm not saying that, but it's like, man, if we could come up with, right, yeah, right.
I think good employees respond to this. I mean, I would love to be in that position where I know if I performed well and you perform well, we're going to get a big check at the end of the year. People coming in here that want a dog paddle, and you only pay, you know, with that CPI not being full CPI, it's going to be a little, and have no faith in the fact you're going to get a big check. You don't want those people anyhow. You want the person to come in here and say, we can make, you know, we can get 12% instead of 6% if we really. The only downside, and I think we talked about this, and Sam, maybe you brought it up, is you want to make sure that people don't sacrifice what they should be doing to save money.
Right, right.
You know, it's always cheaper to maintain than to replace and repair. You know, so you want to make sure people, you know, if I save $10, I'm not grease this thing. I'm like, you can't, because it's going to catch everybody in the end. You're going to end up spending
Right.
more money.
You're right, they'll
You got to have
lose
the
a
mentality, let's do the smart thing financially on everything we do. And we do, we're going to get a piece of that smart decision.
What do you think, Leslie? What do you think, like, instinctively when you see this? Do you think it's crazy? Do you think it makes sense?
No, I don't, oh, sorry. No, I don't think it's crazy. I think it makes sense. I mean, that would be my one question, would be the pensionable.
Right.
I mean, that just comes from maybe more of, well, no, I think everybody who
Well,
works.
no,
in
I'd be
government-
concerned about it.
Especially
It would
being
be a
in-
bad deal for you if it wasn't pensionable.
Yeah, it would be
yeah,
a
it would
bad
be.
deal.
Lincoln did that to me.
Yeah.
They paid a bonus every year, and they were huge. And guess what? It went nothing towards your
Yeah.
pension.
Right.
That was going to be my question. I think especially with, when you're thinking about, we are going to be adding to our workforce, well, we have to add to our workforce, and those people are now going to be in Group D, just
Yeah.
from a, you know, a government employee, your retirement. And Group D is like, hope it's there when you retire, kind of a deal. So there's not, it's going to be, I think, a lot harder and harder in the future to start recruiting people to work in government.
Well, do you
And
think
so
this would help?
I think this will help because I think it is kind of on track with, you know, that person will be seeing, okay, well, my friend works over here at, like if they're a laborer, well, my friend works over here as a laborer for this construction company, and they're getting year-end bonuses. Well, now so am I. So it'll kind of,
Yeah, right.
hopefully, you can kind of start,
Somebody gets in this program, and we have continue this trend. They're gonna choose us over everybody else.
No, that's what I'm saying. I think it's a
Like
good.
this 1.5%, 2%, that's your upside, that's what government does.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm saying to me, there's an opportunity there. You wouldn't,
The employee that you want.
Right. No, I think it'll be good. I think especially long term, like if you're thinking long term, I think that will help fill in the gaps that you're going to see being lost at a state level. I think it'll help you here. Yeah, me too. Joe and I are on board.
I'm saying you kind of know every year you're going to get nothing. You may get 1%. You may get 3% is probably 5% was through the roof. It's like that's not going to happen.
Right.
Now you got the opportunity that and you can track it. You can say it. In September, hey, things are looking good. We got we get a monthly report. Here's
Right.
where you're tracking. Here's what we can expect.
Yeah.
So I think it just gives everybody more buy-in. It's exciting to be part of something that you can actually have a part in controlling, I think, financially.
Right.
And I think good employees will love it.
Well, and like Ben said, I say it all the time. I hope he doesn't get mad when I say it, but when he was mayor the first time and we were just, haying money, I was like, let's just lower it. Thank God he didn't. Or, could you imagine? I don't even want to think about it. So it's, right now things are great. And while it's great, it's great. And the employees will benefit too. But, you got to watch out for the tougher times. And I just think this is the most fair way of doing it.
And I think, this is a great year to do it because we have a lot coming on board with ODOT, Stony Point, CraftMate hiring. I hear ads on the radio every 2 minutes for CraftMate. It's going to be a good year financially for the village. It'll be a great year to get this thing rolled out and laid in, so.
So just from a implementation perspective, when would you make those payouts? Would you make those in the December of that year?
Want it before
or the-
Christmas.
Yep. The last, I would probably do
I'm thinking turning in my wheels, like if I see we're at a certain percentage and I know we're gonna be paying out, does that count towards my end or does that?
we
I'm
would.
kidding.
I would do a special payroll run, making it a check on its own type of thing.
Oh,
So it'd be
absolutely,
easy
yeah.
to be seen.
For budgeting, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I was really just
And-
asking like for implementation, how you
Yeah.
would go about it.
Yeah.
I think it's got to be, we talked about, I think it's got to be in December. There's an
Okay.
excitement to December that you don't get anywhere any other time
Yeah,
of the year.
no, it makes sense. I just,
Yeah. I think.
absorbing all the information in and asking.
I want to talk to Tom about how we make this part of the legislative process here where no matter who's here, that is the system.
I agree with you, Mr. Mayor.
You would just codified it, I would assume.
Say, we need to codify it because I want it to be ongoing.
'Cause
And
there's
then
an
you can make it a
employee-
choice of employee. If the village starts going the wrong way, you're not making any money, you probably should go somewhere else. And it's like, I think this thing is bulletproof because it pays a percentage of the wins and you share in the losses.
Yeah. And you share on the losses.
Bulletproof.
Just like you would in private sector too. There's years where it's really tough and you can't do raises. It's a really hybrid plan that I think it could work.
But what kind of spawned this last year, you could have looked at our results two ways. They were really good or they weren't that great. You could interpret it two ways, and it shouldn't be up to interpretation.
Right.
It shouldn't be, I'm looking at cups half full, and he's looking at it's half empty. It's like, it should be, here's the way it works.
And please, everybody here, think about, look at this
Yeah.
and contemplate it. Contemplate my ideas of 50% factor. Think about it fairly both ways too. Like, look, I'm going to be honest, if inflation gets hyper crazy here, this is the fear of this too, is when hyperinflation probably comes in, if you believe in just simple math and economics, that is a fear for the village here because we can't just tell everybody, hey, everybody, you're used to a 1.25%. We're going to have to bump that up to 5 for the next 2 years because of inflation. Like, we're stuck on a fixed budget. So that's the only part we'll have to, I don't know if you have a little asterisk in there when you pass this thing but then that may defeat the whole purpose if there's an asterisk of where council can vote to change things if they have to because of some crazy alternate, meteor hits craft made.
They always have that ability anyway.
And this is based on real numbers.
It is.
So I don't care what happens. Hyperinflation, the numbers are the numbers.
This is the California in me, Ben. the little liberal sliver in me. Ben.
Inflation goes at 14% a year,
Right,
and our income is flat, what are you gonna do?
right. Well, the only part is, in how this is written now, is they would get a 7%
You would get
raise.
7% with how it's
Because of
written out.
that, because of the CPI
CPI.
in here. That's the only, why I say the asterisk, because not every, I mean, I hope that doesn't happen. If you look historically, I mean, late 70s and 80s were the only time where it was really
It looks like it's
insane.
trending right now. I saw another report. It looked like it may, but it's not going to be anything
Let's hope not.
over 2018. So.
Right. But I'm just
That's a good
thinking
point.
of the future, like if, 10 years, I don't know. But, so if there could be an asterisk in this, or the other thing is, let's just say it's a really bad year, but the people here worked their asses off. I mean, just down in the trenches, and it's like everybody's deflated, but we still, I don't know, that's the
Well, if
only
this
thing
is your
about it.
baseline,
Right, you do raise
I mean,
to the
council
bottom.
always has the ability to, he needs to stop. But if this is your baseline, council always has the ability to
Yeah,
either go above and beyond or go below, which is, there has been trends and things like that of doing that, like a per person basis or whatever. So that is always still there too, if it would to be needed.
So CPI, to me, the percentage that it represents now should be the percentage it represents regardless.
so what do you mean
Without the
numbers
factor?
wise?
Or with the factor.
So of the 6.2% raise, it was 0.7, right?
Right, yeah.
So the CPI should never be more than 0.7 of the raise.
In that year scenario? Yeah, which is,
Saying if the CPI goes to 5%,
right.
CPI rate should be 0.7 of the raise for that year.
We couldn't do that, though.
That your wages would fall
The
behind.
wages that'd go to that first scenario when we talked, the wages would just keep
You
falling
still have
behind.
total income that's better than.
Maybe, but maybe not, though. You could have a year where income tax is down, and we have a bad year because of a lot of projects, and you could have 10% inflation.
Sure as hell can't give a 7% CPI increase and you're losing money.
No, well, no, that's what I mean. Like, that's where I was saying there almost need, the only, look, I'm just telling you all the
I'm gonna
bad.
take this home and think about it.
Okay.
Everybody else do the same.
Here's the only reason I brought that up, Ben. Hold on. Let me just say the only reason why I even brought that up. The only reason I brought that up is because what's going on right now in Washington, D.C. We are spending money to a crazy point. Historically, when you look back at the CPI from 1919 through now, the only time there was really massive inflation was the Jimmy Carter, 1970, 80, 81. You hit,
Working
Right.
inflation 16% and interest rates 14.
so 40 years ago that happened. I'm not saying that's going to happen now at all. I hope it doesn't, but it's more worrisome now than it was 15 years ago or 10 years ago. I still think this is a good plan. I'm just saying I think you should have some type of asterisk in it where it's like, look, if it gets wild one way or another, we may need to revisit this, but it sounds like you can do that no matter what. Anyways,
This is the plan for the next 3 years, I can tell you that.
You can do that, or you could even just put in if inflation were to be above 3%,
okay, that's a good
main-
point.
your
That's a
main
really smart-
factor then drops by 75% or
it.
something like that.
That's smart. So we should, I'm going
Thank
to
you, I
write that down.
contribute. See, I can't handle things.
Like a very, any.
That's a good idea. I'm going to write that down.
10% over.
Right.
time
So
difference.
that way your baseline is still capped, you're still kind of keeping track with it.
Yeah.
And you're not gonna fall behind, say you do have, for some reason,
Like that.
there's 2 horrendous years back
I
to
think Nick
back.
would, Nick would have thought of that being a financial guy.
Yeah, I
No,
did.
see, I have an
Failure.
MBA, so, I
Right,
do.
it's true. That's the
I'm
level
highly
of difference.
educated over here.
That's the difference.
You got 15 minutes to finish up.
We have one piece.
Okay, sorry. So I'm going to write that down. You guys talk about what you want that cap to be, but this is the plan. If you guys are good with it, we can, okay. All right, sorry.
Good job, everybody.
Take it.
Yeah, thanks, Sam and Caitlin.
Okay, new business, Resolution 21 Tax 06, a resolution authorizing the transfer of funds and declaring an emergency.
This is your first transfer of the year.
Yeah.
So why is it always $1 million?
We've just done
When
that.
I was mayor in the 90s, we transferred $1 million from income tax to general fund. You'd think if it had any logic to it, it'd be $1.5 million at least by now.
This is very good budgeting, and we stick to the budget.
Yeah, that's really what it is. I mean, not
It
to
hasn't
joke.
changed, it hasn't changed in 30 years.
Well, and I think too, now remember, those are transfers coming out of the income tax fund into your general fund. A lot of our
I know,
items.
we have transferred $1 million for 30 years.
I know,
Right.
but we're paying more out of the fund itself directly
Right.
instead of having it come out of the general fund like it was in years past.
I
So, like,
understand
the
it. My
police-
point is, why is it fixed for 30 years? If it has,
I
I
think we've just budgeted, I think it was a psychological number. I think it's just,
think it still is.
yeah, I think it's just a psychological number we've always, and like the police budget went up, they got an increase, so we didn't need to do as much. Water and sewer have done much better over the past 10 years, or 6 years, so we haven't had to move as much. I think that $1 million is just like a psychological number, and we work around that
Yeah.
number, basically, is what it is.
Take you to a shrink and get your psychological changed.
Yeah, you don't
Let
want
me
to
go
do
to
that.
$999.99.
Start transferring 700. See if you can live with that. All
A
right, keep
motion
going.
to take this to council?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then at council, Tom will be bringing another piece of legislation, but I just don't have it at
Okay.
this point.
Any need for executive session before we move on to the Treasury Investment Board? So can I have a motion to adjourn the Finance Committee?
So moved.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Moving on to the Treasury Investment Board. Any additions or deletions to the agenda?
No.
So the minutes have been approved. Nick?
Yeah, this will be quick. This is just an update through the first quarter of 2021 with how much interest we've gotten so far year-to-date in our different investments that we have. So far, we've gotten in $14,536. Thankfully, a lot of that, if you'll notice here, B. Riley, the money we have with Gene, has been very good. A lot of the investments that we picked and did, we had at 4%, 3.8. We even have some 4.25s coming to maturity now that we got back when rates were a little bit higher. Well, now, unfortunately, I wish. Now the renewals are less, but so those are paying fruition now, so thankfully we've gotten a good amount in. This year, I mean, obviously, I expect, depending on what happens with the interest, I will say the one good thing would be, not that we want hyperinflation, but because the village has done such a good job with our finances, we have almost $6 million right now that's in place, and I could raise this by $500,000 easily to over 6, that is in bearing accounts. So if there were to be some type of hyperinflation, I mean, we could make some money here, is I guess what I'm trying to say. So we thankfully, because we've been fiscally responsible, we're in a position where we could take advantage of those facts to help counter some of the inflation increases that we would experience, where there's other municipalities that would not have that luxury. So it's not great. It could be much worse. I'm happy we invested what we did years ago and got into some really good programs, some bond-paying programs at different banks. So we're at 14.5, on that trajectory. We'll hopefully hit 60 for the year. Again, not like it was before we were getting six figures, but it's conservatively safe, and the money is FDIC insured in the investments that we have them in, so.
Better than the $250 a year that we were
It
getting.
was better, yeah, it was better than the couple grand that we used to get, so.
Still makes my stomach hurt
It's
thinking of
ridiculous, so.
Great.
So I met with the treasurer, and I saw their interest that they're collecting. You probably should suggest that she and Nick talk.
Okay.
I think we could do them some good.
The school's, yeah. I'll introduce you to her.
Julia.
Yeah.
Yep. Sounds
I have
good.
to meet her face to face anyways. I've only talked to her on the phone, so.
Not early.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Nick.
Did you guys motion to adjourn?
Oh, need a motion to adjourn?
I'll motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned at 6:20.
Do I need to put the date? No. Do you want me to?
Yeah.
Okay.